Welcome back to TMI with Terrell and Martha. We are so happy to have you here, and we want to make sure that if you're watching us on YouTube that you like and subscribe, you join our channel and comment and let us know what you think, because we love to talk about the things you want to talk about, and we want to know what you think about the topics we talk about. This week, we're really excited, Terrell, because,
Yes.
I get to see this lady here every year when my grandchildren are here because of the fantastic camp they have at the Quinlan.
Yeah.
But tell us who we have here.
So for anybody watching or listening, I am so excited to introduce Nairika Cornett. She is the executive director of Quinlan. And Quinlan is the most amazing, magical place here in Gainesville. If you're here in Gainesville, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it provides so much to the community by way of the arts. And so we wanted to talk today about Quinlan, the things you do, the things we're going to be doing together, and also just the value of it for a community as far as just health in general, mental health, expression, etc. You can tell us also a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I was born in Bombay, India, now Mumbai. Came to the United States in 1993 to attend Brunel University. I completed my undergraduate there, took off for a year, backpacked in Europe,
Wow.
came back, and then did my master's at Brunel.
That's awesome.
And then
Brunel
have stayed
graduate.
a Brunel graduate. Most of my life has been in women-centric institutions, which I'm a huge proponent of, and always stayed in the arts. I was kind of born into the arts, and my life has always found
Revolved around it.
and very centered in the arts.
That's amazing. My
Yes.
daughter's a Brunel alumni
Oh,
as well,
well.
so I understand the value of that
Yes.
education.
So tell us about the Quinlan.
Yeah.
So the Quinlan is your comprehensive community arts center. Of course, we do things that go beyond the community now. We're about to we turned 80 this year.
Wow.
So the Quinlan, I always joke, is actually a year older than the country I come from. It was started
Oh.
in 1946 as the Gainesville Arts Association. And then in 63, across from where the Quinlan today stands in historic Green Street, were a couple by the names of Leslie and Edith Quinlan. And the land on which the Quinlan sits was a vacant lot. And they bought that piece of property as an investment in this community through the arts. And that word investment to me is very, very important. And that was Leslie Quinlan's word. And he wanted to make sure we didn't see it as a gift, because human nature, when we get a gift, we're excited, but it's short-lived.
Yeah,
It
that's
kind of
very
tends to
true.
lose its value over time, and we're, in quest of the next gift. Whereas when we invest in something, the nature of that word is that we do some
Continue.
introspection, and the
Right.
introspection is sole purpose is growth. And so how do we, at the Quinlan, use that word to make sure we are growing in the three pillars that we think are the foundation of the Quinlan: education through visual art, exhibitions of living artists, and community engagement. And so we offer, from toddlers to senior citizens, a space for people to belong at the Quinlan.
And, I can tell you, going to the Quinlan, I was a bigger part of it at one point because I decided I wanted to learn how to paint. So I went and took the art classes there because I didn't even do paint by numbers. I just leaned the opposite direction when it came to art, but my daughter's an amazing artist. And so I thought, she got it from somewhere, so I'm going to check it out. And so, yeah, I took the art classes over there and had the wonderful pleasure of being in an art class with Betty Norton. And she and I had a really good time together. And you just meet other like-minded people. And, maybe you're not, the world's greatest painter. And maybe you end up surprising yourself, which I did. But I feel like that the health of a community really revolves around its investment in the arts. Right?
I have a funny story about Betty Norton. My younger son, Cheyenne, wants to be a surgeon. And with cursive writing not implemented in schools, I had decided he needed the dexterity in his hands. And so I signed him up for a calligraphy class at the Quinlan. And he went for the whole 2 months weekly, and he would bring home little, sweet notes that we would put on the fridge. And then shortly after, we were at Publix on Thompson Bridge Road, and I see Betty Norton, and she's on her walker. And my son, Cheyenne, who has been tall for quite a while, just barrels down the aisle and says, Miss Norton, Mr. And I'm like, how does he know her? And I was a little worried that he wouldn't understand how fragile she was at that time.
Right.
And the two of them just hugged one another. And I
my
said, how do you
goodness.
all know one another? And she said, well, he is my partner in class. And I said, Betty, you go to Gainesville High School? And she says, no, silly lady, I am at the Quinlan taking calligraphy. And the
That's
teacher paired
amazing.
the youngest in the class with the oldest, and we are the best pair ever.
Wow.
And that happened at the Quinlan.
Yeah, she was
So-
that kind of person, though.
Yeah.
She was that kind of person.
And he just loved her. It was touching. It was the whole cross-generational over calligraphy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is
And that's
amazing.
community, and you unfortunately, while we are at the Quinlan, we know these moments happen, but we don't always hear about them. But when you hear about them, you do realize the health and well-being of, entire generations of people living in the community, finding value through the arts.
I think it speaks of the community in general, whether they have a good, rounded love of the arts, creative, music, whatever, literary society, we're coming
Sure.
together. Like, I think that shows a lot of health and in the state of Gainesville, like in the state of mind of the community here in Gainesville. And
Well, many years ago, so my son Mark is 42 now. And so when he was about 10, he took cartooning at the Quinlan. He used to drop him off every week for that. And, he would come out with his little stuff that he's drawn. He's now a mechanical engineer, draws,
wow.
draws buildings now. We were a blended family, and his mother lived in, his birth mother lived in California. And so that was in the early days of color printing. I think it cost me like $3 a copy back then to get color
Wow.
prints done. And I would make copies of what he'd done, and I would send it out to his mom so that she would have
sure.
something to see and something that he's done
Yeah.
along with that. So it was just always we always looked to see what the classes were at the Quinlan for the kids, and now I have grandchildren. In the last 3 summers, we've brought them to the Quinlan Art Camp
Yeah.
because it's like the best amount of time. It's like 9 to 2, which is perfect,
Yes,
it's
and-
the perfect length of a camp.
And
Yeah,
this
I
year
like that.
we've expanded our reach in the community. So we are having our traditional art camp at the Quinlan, 9 sessions, weekly sessions starting the 1st of June. And then we've added clay camp. So you can actually go into the pottery room and do hand building and wheel throwing.
Can you be a grown up and go to
Well, that happens year round, actually. For grown-ups. And I've become a little addicted to pottery. But, and then we're in the community. We actually got a grant to go into the Baker Glover mobile home community.
Oh, that's
So we are
wonderful.
taking camp to them. We're taking camp into Harrison Square Village.
Very good.
And we are
amazing.
partnering with Gateway to have their students on full scholarship come to the Quinlan camp. So we're trying to really expand our camp. We've made camp very intentional in what it does. We don't want people to think of it as babysitting.
Right.
We
Right.
want them to know we want your children so that we can ignite a spark that lasts a lifetime, and that we want them to think differently about things. We want them to be people who can have big ideas and learn how to process those.
Yeah, it's so funny because when I dropped them off the first time, I had 4 of my grandkids, and they weren't sure, because they're not from here.
sure.
They live in Lexington, Kentucky. They didn't know if they're going to find anybody there. And one of my grandsons was from Watkinsville, and so they went in, and when they came out, they were just bounding out, and James said, "Oh, it was great. I had a good time." And then sweet little Benji said, "Oh, I thought you were dropping me off. You were tricking me into sleepaway camp." And so he didn't
know what he was in for.
I know, but
was
he had
just
a great time, and he's shown artwork at school
That's
that he's
amazing.
done since then.
Oh,
but it
that's
was so
fabulous.
funny that he would think I was, because we
Taking
wanted
him
him
to
to go to
sleepaway.
sleepaway camp, but you can't go until you're ready for that.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
but that's
funny.
an idea to do sleepaway art camp.
Ooh,
at
that's
the
right.
Quinlan.
A
Wouldn't
pajama
that-
party.
That would be so fun.
yeah. Would
Oh
be
my
great.
gosh.
Like a night at the museum.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Oh,
We
we've
did-
just created something.
Yeah,
The three of
yeah,
us here. That's
yeah.
awesome. All right, you get your pajamas, I'll get mine.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
We're going in.
I stayed on the front lawn with the Interact group one time. They were doing shelter boxes. And it was about 15 years ago. I was running that at the Rotary Club. And
Wow.
so we were doing it outside on the lawn of the Civic Center. And so we were,
Wow. You spent the night on the
I
lawn?
spent the night
of
with all the
Civic
kids,
Center?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic.
it was great. It was so much fun.
Oh my God. We did a slumber party for my daughter in the spa one year for her birthday.
Oh, that she
Oh,
loved that, I
would be
bet.
fun.
It was an interesting night between their little ghost stories and, just being in an old house.
Well, this can morph. The night at the Quinlan
Yes.
includes a walk down Green Street while telling ghost stories.
I love it. Oh,
That's
we
great.
have created
Stay tuned for
something.
2027.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Programming for
Yeah.
Quinlan happening
Perfect.
right now.
perfect.
But, we are so lucky, Martha and I, to be able to have conversations, with executive directors of the most amazing community supportive, we're going to have Gateway on hopefully soon too, the executive director from Gateway,
Yeah.
who I saw today. But, it's good because a lot of people live in the community and just really don't know what's there, what's being offered to them. And it's so important, I think, as a wellness podcast, we are often talking with functional medicine doctors and, trauma, resolution specialists. But to me, art, whether it's painting, singing, piano, of any of that nature, has like more to do with mental health and
100%.
physical health than people truly understand. And I think that, the way also she combines the written word with art. They do that weekly, don't you?
Once a month.
Once a month.
Yeah, we have a crassus for the masses where people who love to write come and write in response to the art at the Quinlan. And
Isn't that
it is
neat?
absolutely fascinating what they come up with. This program was brought to us by a lady by the name of Evelyn Asher, who is also a community treasure.
She's an author. Yeah,
Yes,
she's
and she's a
amazing.
poet, and she started this group, and it started small, and it's the second Tuesday of every month, free to the public.
Mm-hmm.
At lunchtime, you can bring even a brown bag lunch, and you can either participate or just listen to the work, and it's done on the spot, and they are absolutely unbelievable with what they come up with.
Yeah, I just thought that was such a neat opportunity for people
Yeah, and
to
that's
do.
another place you'll see a lot of cross-generational. They've been very good about welcoming a very young audience.
So you mentioned about the outreach to like Baker Glover and other places like that. Obviously, there's a preconceived notion that when you pass a place like the Quinlan, that it's exclusive, and it's something that, that art museum is just for this kind of person. How do you combat that? Because it looks like you're doing some of that with some of the camps that you're doing, but it's also being out in the community, right?
Well, so that's a great question because it's very close to me. When I came to the Quinlan, even the art that was on the walls, while it was of decent quality, it reflected one segment of our community. I have kids in public school, and when you look at the public school demographics, that is not what is represented at the Quinlan. And so my first search was for Latin American artists residing within reach, and I came upon a group that was absolutely world-class in Atlanta. And we had a exhibit that was called Something to Declare.
Wow.
And it was Latin artists from born in different parts of Latin America, but residing in the United States, coming together to declare that they are here. And one of the things I learned even through them was that much of Gainesville or much of America looks at diversity from a black and a white spectrum, when there's
very
the
true.
richness of everything in between, right? And even the word brown, I'm sure each one of us has a different idea of who is brown,
Right.
right? Where a majority of the world is brown.
Well, I'm
And
there.
so, and so when they came, even for me, it was a learning. And the one thing I wanted to make sure was that the quality of art, it wasn't because they are Latin only. I wanted to show that there is this richness in every culture and that we as a community have it within our reach. And one of the things I started doing at the Quinlan is if I knew there was something better out there, I know our community is worth it. And so for me, it was then going in quest of elevating the experience for the community. And so when we did the Something to Declare, we then next year increased it to 21 artists Latin-based on the East Coast. And, that's when the community starts getting outside notoriety. I mean, Lois Reitzes from NPR called me and said, I want to talk about this.
Wow.
And, things like that. And I've always said that communities deserve the best available. And if you have that knowledge, and the community will come. And so the other part I did have to do is I reached out to Black leadership and said, why aren't you all at the Quinlan? It's free. The doors are open. And I had to learn that, Green Street sometimes was a place where they worked.
That's
And
true.
they
The
weren't-
history.
Right, the history. And that's why
Right.
history is so important.
Right.
And so then I had it, made intentional overtures of outreach and said, please come give us a chance.
Yeah.
Give us a chance and see what is available for you at the Quinlan, because for me, the sole purpose of an community arts center
Right.
is that each person finds validity, dignity, and welcome
Wow.
in that space.
I love the way you put that. Now, I think that there's two things that I'm thinking about relating to that. One of the things I've always said about, there's the things we think that separate us really don't.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And if you look at America, for example, America is from white to black and united by one language.
Sure.
Okay. Latin America is white to black and united by one
Sure.
language.
Right.
And so we have a lot more similarities
Then
differences as a result of that. And so we're coming up, on the 250th anniversary. I hope you're going to do something for that.
I'm sure.
Yes. Okay, I
Yes,
hope so.
yes.
But the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence,
Yeah.
because that language is inclusive. And have we had moments where we've achieved it and not, and come back and forth? We're human beings. We
sure,
don't stay on the
sure.
same
We don't hit
path
the
all
mark
the
every
time.
day, yeah.
But the marker that we put down and fought for and bled for, even up to our own Civil War
Right.
and sacrifice for, is worth it. And
Yes.
it's so impressive that in that, I think they called it the Age of Enlightenment, right?
Sure.
That particular time, that language was just changing the way people looked at the world.
Yeah.
And, and there's a lot of talk about colonialism, all that kind of stuff. But if you look at the UK, for example, look at what came out of that. Okay, India, the United States, Australia,
Right.
Canada. Some of the biggest free peoples in the world.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes, groups
that
of
we're
free
not perfect
people.
every day, but we put our problems
We're
up in
free
the
to
front.
make those
Sure.
mistakes.
As well as Gordon Sinclair of the Canadian Broadcasting System said at the time of Watergate, don't count America out. And we feel this
No,
way now
of course,
sometimes
never do,
because they put their problems in the front window for everybody to see
Yes.
and for everybody to talk about.
Yeah.
And they'll be fine.
Yeah.
And that was during Watergate when everybody thought it was
Sure.
the
Oh,
end
Lord.
of, the end of the world.
I think stepping away a little bit, but American resiliency is what we really should model.
Yes.
If we could model and sell that and realize it ourselves, I think
Yes.
it would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
But what the arts do is, we could be in a shared space with completely different upbringings, different languages, and all these
Races.
man-made differences, right? By virtue of birth, right? We
Right.
were born different places, different privileges, different outcomes, and yet we can find ourselves in front of art and have a shared experience, because that's what
Yep.
art does so beautifully,
Yeah.
is that it literally washes away the nonsense we burden ourselves with.
Oh,
How
yes.
different we
I
are.
love that nonsense we burden ourselves
And we
with.
do.
It's
We do.
very true.
But she said man-made, which I
Man-made.
think is so important.
Right.
You know, I'm a biblical person,
Sure.
okay? And there is no discussion of race in the Bible.
No.
Wow,
You know
as
what I
it
mean?
It wouldn't.
You know,
No.
right.
They wouldn't find
They-
his place there.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like we created this construct that separates us.
Yes.
You know,
The
and
forms.
you know, because I know everybody needs their tribe. I get it.
Sure,
Everybody
sure.
needs a group of people they
Sure.
feel comfortable with. I
Identity
get
and-
it.
sure.
All of that.
Sure.
But you got to find where the balances are. And I
Sure.
think art brings that. I mean,
It does.
you know, my parents were not
one
very well
language.
educated. Okay. My father did not finish high school. My mother only finished high school. But my dad was self-taught in playing piano, self-taught in playing the
Wow.
guitar. He drew, you know, he did all those kinds of things. And he had parents that said, why are you wasting your time at that
right,
stuff? You know,
right.
but he passed it on to us, and we all have different things. The same
Yeah,
thing with
that
my
you do.
husband. My husband plays the guitar and he draws and he challenges, but
Creates.
he creates things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's a wonderful thing to do.
Well, I think we're intrinsically creative beings,
Mm-hmm.
and so the minute you look at any kinds of authoritarian regimes, what's the first thing they attack? Are the artists,
arts.
right?
Yeah.
Is the art. You want to go and you want to destroy art because art tells a story of thriving. Art tells the human condition. Art can bring social change. Art is extremely powerful, and I'm always the person that tells somebody, challenge me with where art is not found. I mean,
Right.
art doesn't have to be beautiful. Art doesn't have to be happy. Art can enrage you. Art can bring you to tears.
It elicits feelings.
Right, and the
Definitely.
more of your senses that the arts engage, the more memorable and effective that piece of art will remain in history.
So in 2011, I was in a delegation that went to Taiwan for the 100th anniversary of the Republic of China, because of course, for lots of
what an
complicated
experience,
reasons,
though.
they believe they're the
Sure.
Republic of China, and China
Not the
believes,
People's
you know,
Republic.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Right.
But I went to the museum there, you know, because Chiang Kai-shek took because he knew they were going to destroy.
Right.
And he couldn't bring everything, obviously, but they took out as much as they could, and they you know, change out the different art
Exhibits.
Yes, thank you. And do you know what the number one group of people is? Because now the Chinese from mainland China are allowed to have tourism to Taiwan. Over 1 million people a year from mainland China
China.
come
Wow.
to see that museum, to
Oh, I just
see their
got
history,
goosebumps.
to see
I
what
love
they
it.
can't see.
Well, I have, I religiously, I belong to a group where the religion started in Persia. I'm a Zoroastrian. And so so today's Zoroastrianism is mostly found in Iran and India. India has the largest population, which is where I grew up. And I know a lot of Iranian Zoroastrians who, after the toppling of the Shah, came to the United States. And when you talk to them
Yeah.
about what they brought with them, of course, they didn't come directly. They went to refugee camps, some mostly in Spain and that region, and then found their way to America. And I have cousins who have married Iranian Zoroastrians and live in D.C., and they will tell you the things we brought
Where the art.
was the art. We
Yeah.
rolled up the
Yeah.
canvases, we rolled up the
Yeah.
rugs, we rolled up things that would allow us an identity no matter where we found
Identity
Yes.
ourselves.
is a good
And
word.
art
Absolutely.
is the keeper of our history. The art, art is
Expression.
our identity. Today, who we are, we will represent in our art for people to see that come after us.
Right.
And so the arts are really central to humanity.
I agree.
It is. I agree 100%.
Me too, yeah.
So-
And one of the things I wanted to talk about today, because we did have Governor Deal on our podcast
Yes.
recently, and Martha and I were challenged in our hearts to be able to move through some, pretty emotional moments as he was discussing the motivation for his book, Vito the Cat, which was so sweet, and his intention behind the book to teach morals to children. And what's so awesome is that a lot of times in small communities, you'll see different 501(c)(3)s, really struggling with each other because everybody's trying to work with out of the, kind of pull from the same pond, so to speak, right? And the community is only so big.
Sure.
And so sometimes that breeds a little bit of not
Discontent.
Yeah, there's just a little bit of challenge and discontent in that process. But Nairika has always been open and welcoming to doing things that involve other ventures, as long as it's all in the artistic realm.
Sure.
And so we have held hands as a literary society of Northeast Georgia. We have, brought Nathan Dill to the community to discuss the writing of Vito, the governor's cat. And so we're going to be doing that at the Quinlan, and that's going to be May 21st. And tickets are on sale there. They're like $10.17. But, oh my goodness, what an opportunity to be with a legend of a man that you had the pleasure of actually working with. And, the things I got to learn just sitting and listening.
And he's amazing.
And Tommy, my husband, was an intern with him in Washington, D.C.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
I probably met him back then.
I'm sure. Heart Pain was there with him.
Yes.
And Tommy was there 2 years. And
What a
in fact,
great name for the wife of a doctor.
Yeah,
I know.
I
Heart
know.
pain. I love her. She's great.
It would have been great if you
She
were a
used to be
cardiologist.
she used to be a receptionist at WDUN. So I mean, it's
Oh,
like
wow.
everything that
Everything-
like goes around
Wow.
comes
But
Yeah.
around.
that's what's so wonderful about this community. I mean,
Yes.
truly, it's the connections. Today we were talking to the granddaughter of Leslie and Edith Quinlan, who lives in Gainesville. And lately, we've had so many events at the Quinlan that have involved orchids. And our bookkeeper is like the orchid whisperer. And she can literally get them to generate flowers year round. And
Wow.
we've always said there's a trick. You're not just adding water and that spray. There's got
What
to
are
be
you
something
doing?
else. And I find out today that Mr. Quinlan, diagonally across the street, had a greenhouse where he grew orchids and lilies. And I'm
Wow.
like, that explains the orchid
whisperer.
abundance at the Quinlan. I mean, I
That's
just made that
amazing.
connection today, and I said, I get it now, and I'm completely at peace with having orchids all over the Quinlan.
place.
Our offices are we just don't want to kill them or let them
No,
die.
no,
And
it's
so
true.
there's literally orchids in every office, like
They
10
are a
of them.
challenge, orchids. I love orchids.
Well, I'm a plant killer. Okay,
Oh,
I'll go
I
on
lo-
record for
I-
that.
I'm
But I have this orchid that our COO of our company passed away about 3 years ago, and Laura Harris, and she gave me one in 2020, and I've been able to keep it going. Which I am a
Yay.
plant killer. I mean,
that's amazing.
But I put an ice cube on it like once a week. And that's all I do, and it just keeps making flowers and making flowers. My husband can't even believe
That's
it either.
amazing.
I mean, it's
I've
just,
never heard of that.
Yeah.
You put 1 or 2 ice cubes is what they say, and on the leaf portion, right in the center.
yes.
Well, I don't know, whatever Barbara does at the Quinlan, and I think with the blessings of Mr. Quinlan, they're just flourishing.
Constantly. Oh,
Right.
Mine are all in bloom right now. So
That's great.
I'm really excited because they've been in places where I thought, do I need to open the trash can and
Right.
put it in there and be, I'm very sorry for your demise.
I actually have one plant I had to do with that recently.
Or do I try to nurse this back? So the ones that I nurse back are actually
coming
starting
back.
to.
yeah,
Yeah.
they come back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that. But it's just we're so blessed in this community, and I'm just so happy to be able to say you're a friend as well.
Thank you. Me likewise.
As someone who runs the most incredible offering here to our Gainesville community, and I'm so glad you got to come sit and talk to us.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
There's so much more to you that I think deserves to be noted as well. Like, if this town really understood the depth of who you were, I think that we would have you up on that stage just talking about the things you've learned in your life, because you do bring a nice perspective from just living overseas, coming here. And I think that,
I think, well, I mean, Brunel also, I mean, I'm sure you had this wonderful spirit of yours kind of is what brought you to
Right.
Brunel. But Brunel has had there's a lot of interesting matches that have happened, like
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
you never thought you'd end up in a small town in Georgia living for the rest of your life,
Right.
right?
Oh, no,
you
no,
know,
from-
so,
yeah, 24 million people.
How
This is
exciting.
the truth. 24 million. Those were not the days of the internet. And I went to a high school that actually raised young minds to come to the United States, mostly because we had an interest that couldn't be met. I was into ballet very, very seriously. I was working through the Royal Academy of Dance in London, and
Wow.
I knew that if I wanted to, go beyond at a professional level, I'd have to go out west. And so after high school, I went to a high school that made, 1550 was the average SAT score at this high school, right? And so,
serious.
and
Yes.
then in our favor, American universities, even in the 90s, hadn't quite picked up that Indians speak English. And I know our accents can be deterrents in thinking that, but most Indians speak very correct
Very
grammatical
good
English, and that's
English.
from the British,
Right.
having been there very
System,
recently,
yes.
right? And so we had to take test of English as a foreign language. Well, of course, we maxed that score out because it wasn't a foreign language. It was my first language. So we were also very coveted. Yeah, TOEFL, exactly. Exactly. And so we were kind of coveted by American universities. And Brunel actually sent a scout to the United States
Wow.
Information Service in India at the time. And, a dance major was one of my requirements. And my parents, I wanted to go to Juilliard and Boston Conservatory, where I actually got in. But at the time, India wanted to stop the brain drain, is what they called it. And so they made it very difficult for students who didn't get at least 75% scholarship from their institution to leave the country. They said we wouldn't give you the exchange rate legally. So if you wanted to buy it on the black market and come, now you're paying 3 to 4 times the
Right,
dollar
right.
rate.
Wow.
And Boston Conservatory and Juilliard didn't have scholarships for international students, whereas Brunel and other schools opened up their doors, and you were able to leverage almost, they're giving me that, what are you giving me kind of thing. Brunel worked out perfectly. But when I did land here and actually come to Brunel, the realization is, where am I? Right? 24 million
Where
people.
on earth
and
have I landed?
on weekends, it was hard to see 24 people.
Well, and
And
the square was dead back then.
There was
nothing
yes,
there.
yes.
Red Lobster and Applebee's were
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
fine dining. I mean, I know there was Rudolph's and Cafe Julius, but for a college student, that wasn't
Yeah.
entirely
Oh, no.
conducive.
Reasonable. Yeah.
And I lived in a city where you didn't need a car. And I came to the United States on an international license, driving on the other side of the road.
Oh, boy.
And so without a car, and I was going, what am I going to do here? And
How scary.
yeah,
really.
it not more than scary. The culture shock was, at the time, lack of access to things. Right, when it's like New York City, it's almost, I don't have enough time to do all the offerings. But when you come here, but then Brunel took care of that. I mean, Jack Bird was an unbelievable president. He was fabulous to international students. Made sure that we felt included in the bigger community. And then, of course, my advisor was Jim Sutherland. I don't know if you know him. And
Yes.
he was a historian and world religion professor. And when he found out I was Zoroastrian, he kind of, I think in my first year, I spoke to every civic organization because he's like, will you come talk to the Phoenix Society? Will you come to Rotary? Will you come to Kiwanis? Will you talk to my church Sunday school? Because I never thought I'd meet a Zoroastrian. And I was like, yes, just because it allowed me to get out in the community. And then by chance, it so happened that I started working at Luna's bartending, and then Gainesville's doors opened up, and I met everybody.
Oh, yes.
Right? I mean, it was the
Luna's, my
watering
Good
hole.
and bad, right?
Well, you learned all
The days of Luna's.
you learned all the fun history of Gainesville, also the Peyton place-ish place that it
as
can
the
be.
wheel
but
turns, yeah.
but it's the most delightful, wonderful community, and I've just had the privilege of living here 34 years.
Wow.
Well, Nairika Cornett, we thank you so much for coming today and
thank
talking
you.
about the Quinlan and yourself. It's
Thank
so
you.
great.
Thank you
you.
for having me.
Yeah, and we just, can't tell you how much we love having you here and talking to us and explaining to everybody about the beauty and the wonders of art and what being involved in your local art centers can help you do, no matter where you are. You would be surprised at what you find within yourself relative to your creativity. And as always, Martha and I love what we do. We love speaking to all these neat, unique people. And we know from the depth of our heart that your wellness deserves a little oversharing.